Back with another AWS workshop, folks. This time we're touching on AWS Config. This is a very good tool with regards to checking your infrastructure to make sure it's compliant. And what I would say with this workshop as well, folks, is it gives you an overview of working with CloudWatch, identity and access management, systems manager, and also patch manager. It does mention here about the simple notification service, secrets manager, and the key management service, but what I would say, it just touches on the crest of a wave with them, folks, and I would say drill into these subjects in more depth, spin up resources, break them, read the white papers, watch video related content, but above all, get hands on with these and get the material embedded into your system, folks, into your brain, because I have touched on these in the past and I learned a lot just going over this workshop and reminding and revising myself again. This is a 4-part workshop. You will get a CloudFormation template to allow you to spin up this architecture. Okay, so don't worry about having to design this from scratch. If you want to, by all means do it, because it's always good to remind and revise yourself of the basics. And again, it'll save you time just to spin up the CloudFormation templates provided, folks. The CloudFormation templates will come in 2 forms. They will come in a link off here in a JSON format, and there's another one that you spin up later on in the workshop, and that's in a YAML format that I'm more familiar with, but both those formats, folks, are pretty straightforward to spin up. You download the file and then you actually build it with the CloudFormation resource. Okay, this is going through it self-guided at home or in your workplace. You can attend a hosted event and you will be guided by instructors on site. It is a 2-hour workshop. I would say it probably took me about 3 hours because I had a couple of little nuances, and I also drilled into the topics a little bit more, folks, because I like to thoroughly understand what I'm doing, and it just helps me, learn it a little bit better, because I have skimmed over these in the past and then I've had to revisit them again. What I would say is it does give you a bit of a going over of the NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology cybersecurity framework, which is very good. So what it is, I've utilized this in the past, forgotten a lot about it, so it was very good to go over this again. I'll leave the link for these things in the description, but by all means drill into them and get a good understanding of what you're up to and how they support these workshops. And what I would say is there's 4 stages to the workshop, and on every part it actually tells you what NIST resource that you need to go to, or what AWS guide that you need to go to actually figure out the solution to what it provides you with is a real world problem that a company needs to actually have sorted. And the first one is about patching, and Patch Manager is the resource that it takes you through, folks, to actually ensure that the EC2s that are already set up for you are patched and compliant. What I would say is this is where I had a little bit of a nuance. Stage 2, I couldn't find configure patching anywhere. If you do find it, feel free to drop it in the comments. You can find Patch Manager, pretty straightforward, but configure patching just wasn't there for me. Whether the workshop's old and that has disappeared, but when I come into Patch Manager here, and I went to go into patching, you can see here now I've got a nice dashboard. That's because I've already patched my EC2 instances, but whenever the workshop guided me through that stage there, I just couldn't find it. So what I did was, and I'll drop a link to this in the workshop, in the description below, when it mentions about a maintenance window here, I found a guide here that actually takes you through what you need to do in the workshop. It's a step-by-step guide. There is quite a few steps there, coming up in nearly 30. But you will whiz through that pretty quick because it's exactly what is in the console. All right, so do that down as far as here to set up your maintenance window. And then for the second little bit, which is the manual stage, you will see a window that will look like this, folks. Okay, for that last couple of steps there. Follow that talk through to set up your maintenance window, and then just manually patch your instances like it says here, because you will need to have a successful patch done to jump into the next stage, which is AWS Config, to do the rule to set up that you need to check for compliance. The instances that aren't compliant, they will show up as non-compliant, and the ones that are will show up as compliant, and that's all walk through. Okay, Once you've done that one, then the data protection one was a straightforward workshop working with RDS. And that was checking to make sure that the RDSs had the correct tags for the data classification. It gives you the names of the tags, the key and the value pair. And again, you set up a rule to actually check for that, and you run the rule and it'll show any non-compliant RDSs. You can play around with it as well, just to turn the compliant and the non-compliant off, just to get a better understanding. And it tells you all about that. So that part of the workshop is straightforward. Security assurance bit, working with CloudWatch. There was another little nuance here as well, folks, but well, you may already know about it. In CloudWatch, by default, the AWS CloudWatch groups, log groups, are set up in US East 1 region. I was working in the AP Southeast 2 region, so I couldn't find the logs initially, but when you actually run the AWS CloudWatch agent on an EC2, which is already done for you, it by default puts the log groups in US East 1. You can go in and change this here as a bit of a learning curve. It actually tells you how to do it here, and then start the service up again. Okay, if you're running an Amazon Linux 2, which I was in this workshop, you can start that service up again after you've actually edited this AWS CLI.conf file, and you can go into the actual EC2. It tells you all about how to do it in here. I'll leave the link to this in the description below as well if you want to go in and do it. It's only 2 to 3 minutes work, but again, it's a learning curve, folks, all right? Because if you hit that little blocker in the future and you know about this, it'll just be a matter of Googling it to find this page again, or just to find possibly a little guide that you've saved for yourself in the future. All right. But that was the only nuance with that there. If it was a nuance for anyone, it was a little bit of a hurdle for me, but I got over that after a quick Google. And it was nice just to be able to do something outside the workshop that just wasn't a point and click thing. So all this here worked straightforward enough. You could find your logs in US East 1 if you just wanted to go and find them there, or you could, do the configuration in the CloudWatch agent and get it to actually move the logs to the region that you're working out of. And it will do exactly what it says here and actually identify you logged in as a root user, which is bad practice on an EC2 instance, folks. All right. The last one then is identity and access management. This is a topic I like to visit often because reading policies and roles in AWS is quite difficult for me. I find JSON policies like a little bit taxing. I'm not a reader, so I have to concentrate quite a bit. But it allows you to go in and change a few things here, and again, better understand the JSON policies under the AWS roles. And this was just a good reminder and advice, folks, and a little bit of a curveball there when it mentions the not action as opposed to action. Again, good little learning curve there, folks, and it will allow you then to go and create another stack here. So, well, this time in YAML format, and be able to set up a config rule to identify someone logged in as a root user, and it will really give you a good in-depth understanding of how this could be used in a real-world scenario. And it actually gave me a bit of a light bulb moment because I got flagged up one day by our SOC analysts for not having something done, and I can see they use config rules to identify these things, folks. So if you are, looking to collaborate, which the IT industry is all about, give your SOC analysts, the Security Operations Center analysts, a nudge just to give you some advice on this here, because you probably will work really closely with them to secure things, folks, whenever they're taken to production. Okay. So that was the whole workshop. I haven't tore things down yet, but that's part of the last bit here, which is cleaning up all the resources. And that's what I'm going to do now to not incur any costs. What I will do really quickly here is actually look and see what this has cost me so far. It's just the start of the month, and this is the first thing I've done. So I've only, at this stage, used less than $1, 62 cents. So that's really good, because last month was quite big. It was $13 because I was using a lot of AI machine learning. So that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's not a lot of money on the grand scheme of things over the month. But any questions, folks, at all? If you're doing the workshop and you find something that I've told you wasn't actually in there, and you found something different, then by all means drop it in the comments or make a video about your own journey through this here. But I'm going to be visiting a few more of these around monitoring, and I'll see what I turn up. Okay, so as always, I wish you all the best. Take care and good luck.